Welcome to How to Build a WordPress Website for Artists. My name is Emma Pepper. I'm the Program Director for the Tamarack Foundation for the Arts, and I'm joined here on the video by Sean Dover of Mesh Design and Development. So you can just hear my voice right now, and you're seeing Sean there sitting at his computer. Hey to Sean. The Tamarack Foundation works to build a creative economy of West Virginia by helping artist entrepreneurs. To all artists across the state, whether juried into the Tamarack Retail Facility in Beckley. This webinar today is part of our Creative Entrepreneur Speaker Series. So through the end of 2016, we're hosting 9 experts from across the nation. These speakers will address topics like building websites, how to do social media, pricing your work, preparing for fairs and festivals, meeting with Art World VIPs. This is a great series, and we're excited to be bringing this to all of you. All of the events are available for free because we got a generous grant from the Benedum Foundation. So thank you to the Benedum Foundation for that. And you can check out that speaker series by visiting our website, tamarackfoundation.org, and then clicking the speaker series link on the home page. If you have any questions or comments at any time today during the presentation, you can submit them to us using the box labeled chat at the bottom of the screen. So you're going to type in your question or comment where it says write a message, and then click the send button, and we will see that question. So please note when you submit a question through that chat box that everyone taking part in the presentation today will see your question. At the end of the presentation, we will leave time for a Q&A. At that time, I will look through the questions in the chat box and ask those of Sean. And I encourage you to submit any questions that you have along the way into that chat box, and we can review them at the end. If you have any technical issues today, we did send out an email today or yesterday to all of our people who had RSVP'd as of yesterday, talking about some basic troubleshooting. If your presentation window freezes at any point, just close out of it and then reestablish your connection by going back into that confirmation email that you got from Click Meeting. There's also an option to call in and hear the audio if you have issues with hearing either of Sean or I speaking. That phone number is in the confirmation email. And if everything fails, you can't get back in, you will get a follow-up email that includes a recording of this presentation. So without further ado, let's introduce Sean. Sean is a web developer at Mesh. Mesh is a graphic design and web development creative agency. They have offices in Charleston, West Virginia, and also in Brooklyn, New York. Sean graduated with distinction in creativity from the University of North Carolina at Asheville with a bachelor's in new media and a concentration in interactive design. He has experience in web design, animation, video, and web development, including HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. Previously, Sean was a web developer in higher education, responsible for designing, developing, and maintaining web and brand presences. He enjoys combining design and development to create immersive experiences that engage users. Welcome, Sean, and many thanks to you for leading this presentation for us today. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Emma, for that introduction. Before I get started, I just wanted to ask everybody if there's a little chat window at the bottom of your screen. It's going to make me feel a little bit better, a little closer to you guys, if everybody that can will chat in that window, just a hi or a hello. Hello, Elaine. Hello, Rosemary, TJ. Melissa, Ellen, hello Emily, hello Judy, hello Rebecca, Elizabeth, Cynthia, Lisa, Melvin, Ziggy, Susan, and Amy, and Kylie, Liz, and Kim, Jan. All right, well, thanks, guys. So let's go ahead and jump in. And I'm hoping that everybody can see my screen. Trouble with sound. But so let's just go ahead and get into this. Emma introduced me. I've been working for Mesh Design and Development for about a year, and what we've been focusing on, what I've been focusing on as part of my position is working primarily with WordPress sites. So I've got about a year's worth of experience working with WordPress, and what we're going to do today is work on a WordPress.com site to get you started on the on starting your own website. So what I'm going to be covering today is creating a WordPress site using WordPress.com. We're going to choose a template. We're going to examine the components that are available in WordPress, the admin screen, and then how to make basic adjustments to the site to personalize it to your needs. And then we're going to go through, as I go along the presentation, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, just things to make it easier for you to use your site and make edits to your site. So just some housekeeping things. This is the difference between, we're going to be using WordPress.com, but there is also know that there is a WordPress.org that you can visit. And that's more advanced than what we're going to deal with here because we're using the WordPress.com account, which WordPress.com is just a hosting or a hosted version of WordPress that has different grades of WordPress versions that you can use, from basic, which is free, to the more premium and a business version if you decide that that's the direction that you want to go. So why do we use WordPress? The primary reason we use WordPress here, and why I would use WordPress, is because it's just easy to use. Everything is based on text editing. The WordPress program is designed so that you don't have to know a lot of code to be able to use it. It's also modular. So modularity meaning that the site, if you need new functionality, you can always bring that in because there is a plugin available that you can just simply, literally plug into your site, set it up, and add that new functionality into your site. It's also scalable. So that means that as your business grows, as the needs of your site grow, you can also, WordPress can also grow with you. There's also a huge community of users and developers that are available to you as support should you have issues with any portion of the site that you're using. And I'll provide links to some of that at the end of this presentation. So I may have mentioned in the previous slide that WordPress is a CMS. And what CMS stands for is a content management system. So content management systems allows you to build a site, then also be able to make adjustments, the content or the actual text in the site, any images in the site, through the back end of the site, and you can do that yourself without having to approach a developer to help you out with the code. You don't have to know any code to be able to make edits to the site. You just simply go on signing in to your site and making those changes. And that'll make more sense when I start to move into actually creating a site. So we're going to jump in straight into making WordPress site. So I've got WordPress.com open, and I'm just going to click the Get Started button, and we're going to start from scratch to create a WordPress site. So I know already that we're going to be creating an arts and entertainment site. And what we're looking at here is this is more tagging your site, giving other users information that tells what your site is about, so that other people looking within WordPress will be able to search out your site. So this is important, but it's not vitally important in this stage. So we're just going to pick arts and entertainment. And we're going to pick creative arts and design, because I know that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. That most everybody's going to be focused on a creative arts and design site rather than a sports and recreation site. You could also use photography and music or any one of these. It's all up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick that. And then, so what do we want our home page to look like? This is the first choice. This is only a primary choice. This is not set in stone. You can always make this change when you get into your actual site. So right now, I always like just a regular welcome page, which is the center. I just want to choose the welcome page rather than the latest post and the greatest post. Right now, this is probably going to be the best view for us to look at, because we're not going to have any latest posts, and we're just not going to have any posts for us to look at. So this is the next stage. This is choosing a theme. So choosing a theme is pretty important to the site. You want to make sure that this choice is kind of set in stone before you really get rolling with it. The theme is more or less a skin for your site. It's going to be the way that images are laid out in your site, and it's going to provide you with different functionality. That different functionality part is the reason why I say that you should really choose this prior to really starting and really commit to a theme now, because that different functionality may change the way your site's laid out, and that will save you a lot of work with having to reconfigure anything as far as pages and posts and images and things like that. So take the time here to really look at these, and don't focus on the thumbnail that you see here, because this thumbnail is going to be the best case scenario for what this site's going to look like. A developer has created a template, and they filled it with the way that they think is best for that template to look like, and you might get disappointed if you can't make it look exactly like that. So take the time to actually look at the template and look at their documentation and decide if that template provides you with what your site will end up needing. All right, so I'm kind of cheating here. I've already picked the harmonic theme. I've already gone through it, so I know I can show you guys without making any missteps, even though I might make missteps when I get going. But I've also got a version that's finished, and I want to show you that at the end. This is kind of like having the casserole at the end of the cooking show. I'm going to walk you through some of the global things that you'll always see in WordPress, a few of the minor things that are specific to this particular theme that I'm getting ready to choose, and I'm going to show you a finished product. So we're going to go ahead and pick that. And this is where you get to pick your domain. So here I want to break off, and I want to go back to my slide. And I want to talk about domain. So a domain, you may or you may not know a lot of technical information about domain. But a domain is literally the address for your site. It would be like if you had a physical location Your physical location is what you would give people to be able to drive or walk to your business and be able to see it. Domain is literally the same thing. It's what you provide to people to be able to come to your site and be able to use your site. So that decision for what that domain is unique to you, and it also takes some planning before you start. But just like real estate, a domain is a finite resource. We've all seen .coms, .orgs, .biz, but the domain, your domain has to be unique. If someone's already purchased it, like if I want to start a site called Amazon.com, I can't start a site called Amazon.com because somebody owns it. So it's best to go ahead and think about your domain now and try to get that purchased. So this slide is more about what I've encountered in my experience working here at Mesh. So the first one is more about deciding whether you're going to get your domain now or later. You want to choose your domain now because, like I said, a domain is a finite resource. If someone else buys it, you're going to be stuck trying to buy it from them or trying to figure out something else, which I'll go ahead and let you know there are about 6 billion people on the planet. There's a chance that your name that you desperately want right now is already chosen. But that doesn't, you just have to find something unique, some other unique name to be able to apply to your site. And you can go ahead and check whether that is available by going to any one of, this is just an example. I don't work for GoDaddy. I'm not trying to sell GoDaddy service. But this is one way, just going to a registrar and trying to type in a name that you want to see if it's available. So this is saying that my name, SeanDover.com, is already taken. And that's because I own it, but there's a chance that whatever it is that you pick has already been taken or might be taken in the future. So definitely look into what the name needs to be, what you want it to be, and then try to look at whether it's already taken and look at trying to go ahead and purchase it. The other thing, the last point in that slide is important too. We've worked with a lot of clients that have already purchased their domain, and they purchased it through one of the domain or one of the site building services, like Wix, like Squarespace, which is fine. And if that's the route you choose to take, that's okay too. But the one cautionary part is this last point, to try to register that domain name with another company, even if you choose to use that domain with this WordPress.com account. Try to get that, rather than registering it through WordPress, try to register it through a domain service, so that if you decide to go up in plan or go to a different company, you've got that domain. You don't have to wrestle it away from the person that you originally registered it with, like Wix or WordPress or Squarespace. Okay. So this is another slide just for you to look at later on when I share this overall slide or this overall presentation. It just kind of goes into hosting and why you want to, or how hosting works and how you can keep it separable, because hosting and domains are indeed separable. But I'm not going to get into that right here. I'm going to get into that, or you can read this later. But what I will do is talk about the fact that domains and hosting are separable, and that goes back to that last point on the last slide. So what that basically means is that I can purchase a domain somewhere, company A, and I can purchase hosting elsewhere. A lot of companies will try to sell WordPress or try to sell domain and hosting as one thing that is inseparable. But the thing is that those are definitely separable. You can purchase your domain at company A, your hosting at company B. You can also consider them mutually exclusive. You can have your domain and not have a site attached to it. You can also purchase hosting and not have a domain attached to it. So let's get back to the site and just start trying some domains. I'm just going to try Tamarack. 2060. And you have the option of either bringing your domain to WordPress when you start this, or just letting WordPress pick a domain for you. And I've just typed in something descriptive to what we're doing here, and it looks like that's available. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that and get started. And these are the different subscription plans, where we're going to be working with the 3. But you can see that you also have a personal, which is a grade above what we're going to be working on. That's $5.99 a month. And then premium and business. So when you get to the business level, you might want to consider trying to start your own website. That's not going to be covered here. Just to let you know that business is the most advanced version that's available here on WordPress.com. And then thereafter, if you need a bigger site, then you're going to be looking at trying to either work within what business will provide you or work within a custom coded site. So we're just going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to give it my email address. So that I can remember it, I'm just going to give it my name and a password. A brief word on passwords. They don't offer it here, but having worked with custom coded sites, always make sure that your password, the password that you choose, is a strong password. And a strong password, we get this all the time. I think there are even commercials on making sure that all your passwords are strong. But a strong that we typically use is a phrase. So here, if I were to be worried about whether this password is strong, I might give it a random set of characters, or I might give it a phrase. Like we like to use like a 3-word phrase, something like Sean is amazing, 2016, or something of that nature. Something that's long. You might add a exclamation point to the end of it. It gives it a character that people can't guess. But in the end, it's easy to remember, but it also meets that strong criteria. And my username is already there. So try that one. Give it a minute. Continue. All right. And here's the part where I get to switch over. I don't know if anybody saw, but there is an activation email that was sent to me. You'll get that email when you first start your account and make it semi-live. What happens is you get an email in your inbox, whatever email you provided when you signed up, and it's always best to go back to that email, which I'm doing now. I'm not showing it because it's in my work email, but they'll provide a confirmation button, just go ahead and confirm it to let them know that, hey, this is really me. This isn't some sort of bot that someone's programmed to create a WordPress, and it's okay to start using this site. All right. So if you like, they generally provide these little walkthroughs for people. It just kind of gives you an overview of what's available, where stuff is. I'm going to be showing you that, so I'm going to dismiss this as soon as I can. But just know that that's there, and that's there to help you when you get started. All right. So this is, what we're seeing now is going to be roughly the finished product of the site. And that's nothing done by me. That's all provided by the developer of this particular template that we're using. You can already see that it's pretty cool. There's a bit of a parallax to all these windows, all these little panels in here. There's already some text widgets set up. So what I'm going to do is actually walk you through trying to make changes to the site. So what we generally call this screen, or this black line along the top, and this column on the bottom, we call this the admin portal. So this is your admin toolbar. This is also a toolbar. This actually carries with you when you view the actual site, and it's a way that when you're viewing the site, you can actually go back into the admin portal and make changes where you need to. So, trying to get back to viewer. All right. So with a WordPress.com site, this is what you generally will see when you first get started. And this is just one view of the admin portal. This gives you everything that you need. Let's go back to, that was just a page. But this is kind of the dashboard. This is your initial view of the site when you get your account started. And this has some various things within it already populated, and gives you access to be able to check your stats, whatever plan you're currently on, some publish information, which is always going to be your blog posts, pages, and something specific to the template that you're trying to use. In this case, we've got a portfolio, which is a specific type of blog post that is used in this particular template. You also have some information to personalize and configure. So what I like to do when I do these WordPress.com sites is go back to the view that I'm most comfortable with. This view and the view that I'm getting ready to show you are pretty much exactly the same. There's a few additional buttons there, but I just like to use that view. I know more about that view. So I'm going to show you how to get to that, and we're going to work with that for the rest of the examples. So what
hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Emma. Hey, could you speak up a little bit?
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
All right. I'll try to talk at that level for the rest of the time. So in case anybody didn't hear me, what I'm going to show you next is the view that I would typically use to actually view the site. But the two views are pretty much the same. I just have more experience and I'm more comfortable with the view that I'm getting ready to show you. So in order to visit the site, you always have your site listed at the very top here. So if you just click that and then click this little icon here, basically an open in a new window icon, you can go back to the site. And what you can see here, we picked Hammerak Test 2016. So now we're looking at the live site. We're not looking at the viewer. which has all this information in the URL. We're actually looking at the live site. So if we go back, so this is how you get into the admin portal. When you finish the site, when you're getting ready to make edits, this is going to be the same thing whether you're working with WordPress.com, whether you create a custom site, whether you're working with a staging server, no matter where you work with this site. The way to get into the admin portal is to add the WP admin to the end of the URL for your site. And what that's going to do is take us to the typical view that I would normally see. And what you always see at the very beginning is the dashboard. And what that shows you here is you can see site stats. We just started this site, but typically what you see here is the activity that you've done in the site, whether you created posts, whether you created pages, and if anyone has visited your site. And we have the various pieces. We have posts, we have media, we have links. Typically, we don't use links. You can do some research on that, figure out the best use of that. Pages, portfolio, based on the last screen we were looking at, that's a custom post type, and that's available here. You've got comments. Comments are things that if you have it open, people can actually leave comments on your pages. Typically, it's up to the client whether we use comments or not. Typically, I don't suggest using them, but you can in this case. Any feedback, appearance, which we're going to touch on in a little bit. Users, if you wanted someone else to work with you on a site, this is where you would add them into this. But you can look at all the users here. Just got to see now. You can invite someone else to work on the site with us if you wanted to give someone their own account to be able to use it. That's cool. So what we're going to work on next. What we're going to be working on next is just working through some of these various pieces in the site to let you know how to get started. So I'm remembering that I said to look at, let's see. So I'm going to step back into that. So we chose harmonic. I'm going to look for that real quick. So I kind of wanted to give you an example of what I meant by actually looking through the site information. When developers release their template into the repository that contains those templates, all those little thumbnails that we were looking at, they usually provide some sort of documentation on that thing. And it's always best when you're trying to make the decision on which thing to use to try to get a hold of their support, their documentation for that site, to make sure that the site is going to provide you with what you need when you move further into creating, actually populating all the things in your site. And this is just like an example of the templates that we're using. They provide some basic information on what things mean, where to find things, how to populate different things. And that's always good to look at when you're trying to decide, when you're trying to choose a template. So let's go back here. So the primary portion of the biggest part of what you're going to be doing on your site is creating posts, if you choose to use them, and create pages. And what is a page? What's the difference between a page site are static. They're where you're going to put information that always lives there, that just tells people basic information about your site. So an example is a contact page. Another example is an about page of things that you would, they're pages that you create, but if you do make edits, it's just that. It's just edits. You're not creating additional information. You're not creating additional versions of them. They're always going to be there. And generally those will always live. In your navigation. This is what we generally refer to as the navigation. You've got home. This home page that we're given when we started this template. We've got an about, which is also an example that we provided with it. They started pre-filled with information. You have contact, which is the contact form that they, again, pre-populated, and a blog. The blog is where we get back into the difference between pages and posts. Posts are also pages. In WordPress, they're considered more or less the same thing, only posts can be categorized. They can be put together based on the time that they were posted to the site, and they're intended more for the building of information. This is how you're going to be speaking to people in the beginning of using WordPress. Most everything was a blog, and what a blog is basically just daily or semi-weekly or something, information that you're going to post on the site. That could be information that you're providing for something specific that happened to you that you want to share with people that visit your site, or it could be notifying people that you're having an event, something like that. But they're intended to be changed often and created more often or more frequent basis. So that's more or less the difference between pages and posts. So let's go back to my site. Actually take a look at these. When you scroll over either one of those, you'll see that there's an all pages link, an add new or copy. Copy of something built in. It's not available in all templates or in all versions of WordPress automatically, but it's available when you work with a WordPress.com version of your site. And we can go ahead and look at all pages. We've probably got an example. We've got the four that I showed you. You've got a home page, you've got an about page, you've got a contact page, the blog. And notice that the home page is also listed as the front page, and the blog page is listed as the post page. We'll get into that later, but we can change which page shows as the very first page when people load our site, and we can change which page shows an archive of our site or blog post. And don't think of an archive as something that you put away. In terms of WordPress, archive is simply the way that we bring in a selection of the various blog posts, whether it's actually a blog post or something you use, like some sort of custom blog post, like portfolio that you can see right here. So we can just go into a page.
Hey, Sean, it's Emma again. We're still having a little bit of issues with the audio here that I'm hearing from people. Can you try with the phone instead of the headset to see if that helps people?
Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, that is much clearer. Thank you.
Okay. So we're not getting the ambient behind me?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll chime in if something pops up.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
I'm getting confirmation yes here in the chat box too.
All right.
So
It looks like Okay. It looks like I'm kind of close on time too, so I was using the phone for timing me. So definitely let me know, chime in or something if I'm getting close to the time.
Okay, that sounds good. I will.
Okay. All right. So let's go through the various pieces of this, just creating a page. So you have a toolbar here, which if you ever use Word or some kind of document editing software, this is pretty self-explanatory. You just have all the icons refer to what they actually do. And if you scroll over them, you actually get another, like a pop-up of what it's actually for. And you've also got, this is what WordPress typically refers to as the kitchen sink. If you click that, then you get more choices, and you can make further edits with the text that you're creating. So let's go to posts. And posts are pretty much the exact same thing as far as the text editor. You have pretty much the same functionality here. If you can just start typing in your text like you would in any document editor, and then start making edits to it for the visual look and feel when you post those pages. Whether you're working with pages or posts, once you're finished, you click either update if it's a page that's already been posted to the site, or you would click publish if it were new. So then let's go into this custom post type. There's nothing there. This one is actually specific to, the way it's being used is specific to this particular template. But we can go ahead and I can show you what a page looks like when we just add a new page. This is the same functionality whether I would be adding a new page or a new post. So we're just going to click Add New. And we'll just give this a name. And then I would start editing this content here. And you can see that the button right now just says publish. That's because we haven't published it yet. So it's not live on the site. If we wanted to finish up, or not finish up rather, and just save this content, you can also save a draft, which is right here. And that saves it so that when you leave this page, you don't lose the content that you've added, but it doesn't publish it to the site. And you can also change all that information. If you've got something that's published already, you can click the status, change that status to whatever you want it to be and whatever is available to this template that you're using. You can also make it password protected, private, or you can actually publish it on a day in the future, and you would set that up here. So we're not going to publish this right now. I'm just going to move away. And that'll show you, when you move away, this will kind of show you what happens if you try to not commit your changes and you try to post. It does actually warn you. You haven't saved this, you haven't made it a draft, you haven't made it live to the site. So do you really want to do this? And right now, yes, I do indeed want to do this. Okay, so the main reason why I wanted to show this view, not only am I more comfortable with this view, but I wanted to show the media library, which is much easier to get to in this view. And this is where you're going to house all the files that you put into your site. Right now we've got these 3 images that were already given to us by the manufacturer of this, or the developer of this theme. But if you want to add something to this, you would just click the Add New. And a lot of these, no matter what the screen you're working on, this same layout, the Add New, where the content region is, they stay the same between pages. So that gives you a little more of an ability to learn the site and how a WordPress site will work, so that no matter where you are, you kind of know where to look to be able to get those features that you're looking for. So we can add new here. And what you're going to get is you have two options. You can actually select files from your computer, or you can, it says here that you can drop files from anywhere to upload. And I'm going to do exactly that. Working a little bit slow. I've got this stuff open. Okay, I'm just going to choose from my computer a series of files that I've already got that I actually used with the version of the site that I'm going to show you at the end. And I'm just going to grab those files. I've selected about 7 of them. And I'm just going to pull those files over to the WordPress window. And once the window turns blue and I see those drop files to upload, I can just let go. And you can see that it's working to add all those files to the site. And you'll see thumbnails of those images once it's finished. Okay, so I'll show you now that those files have been added. We can go to a page and we can try to use those. And the only thing you need to do to add a picture to a page is go back to the page, put your cursor somewhere in the content, click Add Media, and then click Media Library. Just select an image, and it'll add the little checkbox to the image that you've selected. We should be able to select several, or just one at this point, sorry. And then just insert into page. And then we have an image on our page. And if we're ready to commit to those changes, we can click Update. And those changes should be made live. Yeah. So we can see those on the live page. Okay. So the next thing we want to look at, probably the last thing, since we're pretty close on time, but we've covered just about everything, is this Appearance tab. You've got several pieces here that you can potentially change. You can pick a new theme from here if you wanted to. And you see here we've got a list of all the themes that are available to WordPress.com site. Or you can make customizations to the actual site that you're using. Customization is important. Not only does it let you personalize what the site that you're working with, and it also provides some bullet points, some support tools for you that shows you where things are and how to use them. But what this shows you is the custom design really isn't available here because we're working on a WordPress basic. You don't really have access to custom design here. If you were to actually pay for a different level of service, you could do that. What's primarily important, and these colors and backgrounds and fonts and things like that, they'll be available to you per the theme. I'm going to kind of skip around that. Because they would be unique to whatever theme you create. Just know that these are here. This is where you would customize your site. The site identity, though, is important for your site. Every site is prepackaged with the site title and the tagline pre-populated. So you can see here it's got site title is already populated as well as tagline. You would want to make these changes so that you see what the name for your site is and what your tagline is. Okay. Then if I had one, I could also set a logo here. And this just kind of personalizes your site for what you're trying to do. The site title in this particular case, and maybe with all cases in these templates, is going to be the word at the very top to let people know where they are. And then the tagline is not generally or not always used. We can see here that it's actually populating this little area in the home page, the very top. But it's not always used for something that might be used for something like a tag or something like that. If someone searches for it, that tagline will most likely be in the search, just to let the user that's looking for your site know a little more information about it when they search for it in the WordPress site. But it's always good to go ahead and change both of those no matter how the template is going to use that information. I think that's about it. We'll look through this last slide here. The difference between categories versus tags. We didn't actually go over that, but for every page that you create, every page or post, or every post, sorry. Notice that we have this categories link and this tags link. The difference between those two is the way that the information or those posts are grouped within your site. Not only are posts grouped based on the month and the day maybe that they were posted to the site, they're also able to categorize them by the category and the tag. The difference between a category and a tag is that categories are for broader groups of alike information. The example that I can give is think about chapters in a book. In a particular chapter, the chapter is going to be talking about a similar subject. Likewise, when you create posts using categories, you want to think about the type of content that's being used there. And if you have multiple posts that can use or that talk about or fall under that same mode of posting or making a label for those posts. Tags are more like the index of your site. They refer to the smaller bits of information within your posts. And those are going to be more plentiful in your site. You can use those unique to a single post. So they don't work quite like categories in that they're more unique to the content that you've chosen to put within your site.
Okay.
So just go. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I jumped in. I thought that you were wrapping up. Is there something else that you wanted to add before I jumped into questions for us?
No, I was going to go to this post, and I was going to just let people know that this is here, and I'm going to provide this later on. They can look at these 3 links whenever they have a chance and ask for questions.
Ah, perfect. I did have good timing. Okay. Just to let everyone know, not only will we be sending out that recording in this follow-up email, Steve, but we will also have a link to Sean's presentation in that email so that you can get so that you can review the slides. Okay, so in the questions, everyone, if you have a question, please drop them into that chat box. We did have a question pop up during the presentation about adding a watermark over an image. And Carol, I will let you know that also in that follow-up email is going to be a link to a presentation that Megan and Robbie of Mesh Design did, and they did touch on adding watermarks. You will need to go through a separate program to add a watermark over any of your images, and there are some good examples of that you can use to add a watermark within that presentation, and then I will also include links to those programs in the body of that follow-up email so you can go directly to them. Sean, do you have anything to add when it comes to adding watermarks to images? Artists like to do that because they don't want their work to be stolen. They want to have that impression made on the image so that others can't use the work for commercial or their own purposes.
Right. I didn't get a chance to really see Megan and Robbie's presentation, so I don't know what they said. But if you want to create watermarks, I think it would be best to invest in some sort of editing tool like Photoshop or something like that, which can assist you with actually adding those watermarks to your images.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in that email, I will include paid and free options for adding a watermark over an image. Do we have other questions about website building, about WordPress? I see some people typing. I'll go ahead and ask a question. So say that, oh, thank you, Kim, for coming. So say that you're an artist and you either don't have a website, or maybe you set up a website using a website or a platform like GoDaddy that you don't like, and you want to move and potentially use WordPress, but you don't know if you're in the place where you should try to create your own site using WordPress.com, or if you should go to an agency like, for example, Mesh Design, and ask them to create a website for you. Can you talk through what some of those considerations should be between those two options?
I think it pretty much covers everyone. I think that what you have to consider when you're thinking about whether you want to do it yourself or you want to have someone custom create something for you is just the financial budget that you have to apply to that particular endeavor. Anytime that you approach someone else to do work for you, you're going to be looking at a greater expense, certainly than if you were to just create a WordPress site through WordPress.com or do that on your own.
Okay, great.
Right.
We have a question from Lisa and a follow-up comment from Kim, which is, where is the money? Is there a shopping component that you can use with WordPress, or an e-commerce component?
Yes, there is an e-commerce component. I didn't cover it here because it's not really, you can't really use it within just a basic WordPress.com. You would have to be looking at one of those higher plans, more in the business or just below the business, to be able to use those. You can't even use anything but their plugins that they provide. Definitely I'd say that would be more the work on your own, or not yourself, but trying to create that custom website. I'd say that would probably be where you would start looking at trying to plug in things to be able to start your own store. It is available It might not be useful to think in that manner if you're just starting out with a basic WordPress. But
so
sorry.
Am I understanding you correctly that if you get to that business, if you opt into that business level of WordPress.com, which is, I believe, the $24.99 a month level, then you do have the ability to use what are called plugins or adding different types of functions to your site through outside developers or programmers. Is that true?
Having never actually paid for the service with WordPress, I can't say for any guarantee that yes, you can. I don't know what the different levels consist of. I just know that in my test, trying to get ready for this, that plugins, my own, just searching for plugins and trying to add them in on my own were not available at this basic plan. And I just know that means, to me, that would mean that you could add plugins. I don't know what the limitations are on that. Definitely, the only thing I can say with any guarantee is when you start working with your own custom version of WordPress, whether that's custom in quotation marks and you're just working from whatever service you're using, GoDaddy or whatever, they do provide WordPress hosting, WordPress specific, which they do provide you the code to use in that site. You would have to talk to them to really get that started. But once you start working with that custom site, you can start adding your own plugins or purchasing plugins that will provide that capability for you.
Okay. And we do have another follow-up question from Lisa. She says, could I link to a Square Up market page, for example, from my free WordPress site?
I'm not sure what the question means. Are you talking about just actually creating a link that takes them there, or making a bounce so that when anyone, so it's the link?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if you already have some sort of site created that you want to send people to, I didn't go over menus, but basically under appearances in that tab, you have a button for menus, and the menu, it shows it can be added to, and you can either reference pages that exist on your site or create a custom link and make it go anywhere you want it to go. So if you wanted to create a link on your nav that went to Square Up, you would just label it, and you would have a link there that would go to your Square Up account.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Just to reiterate, that menus, what it looks like on your actual website is it maps to that navigation bar. So where your home, about, contact is, you would add an additional menu item there that would maybe say shop. And then when you click on that shop page, it will link out, or when you click on that shop link, it will link to your Square Up market page or whatever your e-commerce platform is. And to also say that our next webinar with Josh of Mesh Design and Development is on the Shopify e-commerce platform. So you can create a website within the Shopify e-commerce platform. So we wanted to offer these two types of platforms. WordPress is for artists who are more focused on presenting information about their business and then have a secondary goal of making sales of their work. If your primary goal is to make sales of your work, I recommend that you start within an e-commerce platform like Shopify and then build your website around that. So, Lisa, if you're in the position where you are ready to transition, you may want to take part in this Shopify presentation that is coming up next. and information about that will be included in the follow-up email. So we are at 5 minutes after, so let's take one more question here, 1 to 2 more. So we have a question here on the plans for WordPress.com, the last 2 lists that you can monetize your site. Does that mean that you can put a shopping component?
The plans for WordPress.com. Again, having never worked with either of those, I would say if they list that, then probably there is some function within that that allows you to do that. You could do some more research on that plan or those 2 plans to see if that would fit with what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it sounds like to me. Monetize is usually that lingo that that these kinds of companies use when if you want to add an e-commerce or online shopping component to your site. But definitely do some research on that component before you commit to using it.
All right. Definitely.
Okay, everyone, we will send you that follow-up email. It'll have links to the presentation, the recording. It'll also have a survey in it, or we can ask for your feedback on the presentation today. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who joined us, and thank you very, very much to Sean for sharing your expertise with us today. Thanks, Sean.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, bye everybody. We're going to sign off now.